a dog on a one-way mission. Scared, anxious, and terrified of the flight, Laika became the first living creature to be launched into Earth's orbit. The flight was Sputnik 2, and the name of the dog was Kudryavka, who was later called Laika. It is the tale of a dog from the streets to space. This is the tragic story of Laika, the space dog. Introduced to the public for the first time via radio, Kudryavka was recognized as Laika. To keep track of her physical movements and to determine the impact the flight would have on her health, doctors performed several surgeries on Laika and embedded medical devices inside her body. She was 2 years old and weighed about 13 pounds. She was a small dog, a mixed breed. She was rescued from the streets of Moscow to be in a space program. But Laika wasn't the only dog that was picked from the streets of Moscow to be launched into space. There was another female dog, Albina. But Albina did not face the liftoff. Laika did. The Soviet Union's reason to choose Laika from the streets was straightforward. They knew the liftoff wasn't going to be easy, so they scoured the streets to rescue the dogs and train them, despite their already dire condition. Scientists knew that Laika was a stray living in harsh conditions, making it easier to train her for a more challenging environment, which proved to be the case, given the difficulty of her training. And during that era's space race, the burden to be the first in space was on Laika. The training was horrifying and inhumane, not only to Laika, but also to other canines who were in training with her. They were kept in cages that got smaller and smaller periodically to make them accustomed to the cramped conditions of the Sputnik 2 spacecraft. The dogs were trained to bear the G-force they'd experienced during the launch. They were exposed to loud and deafening noises of spacecraft launching, preparing them for liftoff. Laika was exposed to extreme conditions for this mission. She was trained to bear cold, heat, and hunger. And after the training, Laika was chosen for the mission as she was capable of enduring extreme conditions that came towards her in the training program. Weeks of confinement, bearing hunger for multiple days, isolation, and small cages made her ready for the liftoff. After the rigorous training, the day arrived, the day of the launch. Laika was placed in the capsule for the liftoff. She was ready, as people were seeing Laika, alive, for the last time. Sensors on her body were working, and monitoring had started. After kissing her goodbye and wishing her bon voyage, the hatch of her capsule was sealed. The sole purpose of this mission was to determine what effects space travel would have on living organisms. Laika was in the capsule, scared and anxious. Her heart thumped as the liftoff happened. Scientists knew that the mission would end with her death, as the technology of the safe re-entry didn't exist yet. Laika was only provided with a week's worth of food and life support technology, because scientists knew that Laika would not survive more than a week, and reports after the launch claimed that Laika died a painless death after a week in Earth's orbit. But it was as far away from reality as Laika was to us. The mission was astonishing. It captured the world's attention, but they could not capture the truth. The truth was, Laika died within hours of the launch. When the aircraft's thermal system failed, the capsule started heating up. The temperature reached fatal levels, and that was one of the reasons for her death. The other reason: panic, stress, anxiety, loneliness. It was known after so many years of the mission that Laika's heart rate tripled during the liftoff. The people involved in this mission kept the pieces hidden and portrayed Laika as a hero. But she wasn't just a hero. Laika was a martyr who died for humanity and whose purpose is yet to be fulfilled in this era's space race. After the mission was completed, the satellite was destroyed, re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Laika was never meant to be remembered. She was just a stray, nameless, and forgotten on the streets of Moscow. And yet, she became the first traveler beyond our world. Her sacrifice carved a path to the stars, written not in triumph, but in silence and sorrow. She never returned, but perhaps she was never meant to. For in the endless night above us, her story drifts still, a reminder that every giant leap begins with a small, fragile life, carried by courage into the unknown. Laika's story still echoes across time. If this touched you, share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching.